Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, ready for the next one?
I take it you're two very happy people.
I'm very happy.
Yes, extremely.
Your jackpot for today is £40,015.
Coming through. No way.
Question is now, can you keep it? It's time to play split or steal. Give me a hand. This is great. Come on. You have one final decision to make. You have two golden balls in front of you. They're not cash balls, they're not killer balls. You each have a golden ball with the word split written inside. You each have a golden ball with the word steal written inside. I will ask you in a moment to choose either the split or the steal. If you both choose the split ball, you will split today's jackpot of £40,015 and you will go home, each of you, with £20,007.50. If one of you chooses split and the other one chooses steal, whoever chooses the split ball goes home with nothing. But whoever chooses the steal ball goes home with the whole £40,015. Here's the rub. If you both choose the steal ball, you both go home with nothing. Right, I want you to look at your two golden balls to see which is the split ball and which is the steal. Very important you remember what they are. You're happy you know which is the split and which is the steal ball? You're sure?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Before I ask you to choose split or steal, I'm just going to give you a little time to talk to each other. It's been a very, very eventful day, and you probably have a few things you want to say.
We have come such a long way together. I brought you through, you brought me through, so we're both equals. 20,000, which is half, is more than I thought I would go away with today. So I am more than happy to split with you if I can trust you to do the same with me. I guaranteed you, I can shake on it now, I guaranteed you at the beginning of the game, if you took me through that round, I would split, and I still intend to split with you.
What I'm going to say to you is, I had my cards read and I was told if I play fair, I will come away with a substantial amount of money. I'm going to look into your eyes when we're asked to make the decision. And I'm going to be truthfully honest with you. If I look into your eyes and I see that you're genuine and you're going to split that money with me, I promise you, I will make the same decision with you. Can't be more straightforward and honest than that.
I'm going to ask you to choose a split or a steal ball now.
I've made my decision. I'm choosing this ball.
Okay. Now, what will the lady do and what will the guy do? What is the strategy? What do you think? How many say what will split? Okay, that's substantial. How many say what will split? Nobody thinks what will split. But both are saying it's better. You are experts in Gandhinagar. Okay. So they won't split. Okay, fine. And so you're saying both will steal. Anybody say especially one split, one steal? Okay. And so who is going to split? Who is going to steal? The lady will steal. would the lady will split. The lady will split, the guy will steal. So the guy will steal. The guy will split. Okay. The guy will split and the lady will steal. Okay. I have all things basically, but also, but what makes you think that the guy will steal and the lady doesn't? I think the guy will split. You said the guy will split and the lady. What makes you think that?
So then the lady
Okay, so your assessment was because the lady initiated the conversation. Okay, so okay. So, okay, I think so. You are saying somebody said that the lady will split and the guy will speak. Why? Why did you? What do you think?
Because he was more specific, I can see if he's genuine or not. The lady will be genuine. At least they can split and he will see.
No, why did you think so?
He told I secretly when they were breaking the wall and he said, "Oh, he is genuine, I also take lead." So the lady will obviously get scared that if she takes lead, he also takes lead. So no one will get anything.
So okay, let's see what happens.
Are you ready?
Are you okay? So let's see
Steve,
what happens.
Tracy. Split or steal?
How many people got this right? Out of the whole class, only 1% got this right. Okay, I didn't ask you, sorry. That basically, but there's a substantial of people got caught, right? Because you said, I think the lady initiated the conversation, so she wants to push it on. So I think so. It's very difficult. So you see, it's not as easy as predicting. I would say some states of things. So basically, I think it's very tricky. You are trying to read all the subtle cues about who's starting the conversation first, who's saying what, and they're saying, "I'm going to look in your eye and hit the ball." There's a threat. All of that stuff is happening subtly, actually. And that's a complexity. So rather, we are only in slide. We should hurry up. We're only halfway through, but that's the complexity of the game, actually. But is a point made. Now you are dealing with these systems, actually. These systems do not obey anything that I would say we have learned so far. They actually follow very different mathematics, but they have learned something very different. Now that I have you on board with all the videos, now we get started. Okay. Set? Okay. Okay, let's start with introduction. Okay. So, as in the main piece of, I would say, the starting point basically was a book by von Neumann and Morgan Stan on games and economic behavior. This is a seminal work that started this area and inspired a lot of people to take up game theory, actually. So, in this case, basically, this thing of equilibrium was for the first time basically was proved in this book. But what von Neumann uses something called Brouwer's fixed point theorem from topology to prove this. But later Nash does an improvement on it, and that is what basically is Nash equilibria. He uses Kakudanik's fixed point theorem. Both are very fundamental theorems in topology. But the importance of this area is you can see from the number of Nobels people have got. So 1994 is Nash here, but who is actually famous for the movie Beautiful Mind. But actually there, I would say Arrow, 1972. And it's a very important work by Arrow. And then it's actually Maskin and Harshjani. Both of them were students of Arrow. And other one is, I think, Vickrey. Vickrey auction, I don't know. So first prize auction, second prize auction, you would have heard of. You heard of auctions. How many have heard of, I would say, second prize auctions? First prize auctions you would have heard somewhere, but second prize auctions. So that's very important, I would say, auction that has very nice properties, and that's by Vickrey. And Vickrey, I think, in some sense, basically it affects RIs. How many of you have heard MNREGA? There's a scheme called MNREGA by the central government to provide employment to people. So what happens is that was proposed by a guy called Jean Reze. Or Jacques Reze or something. He's a Belgian economist who actually taught in Delhi School of Economics, and so he was very, I would say, strong support of MNREGA. He was Vickrey's student. And so, okay, let's get started. So basically, so the work in game theory has been very influential in driving economic policy. And a lot of work has been done post World War II and during Cold War, mainly around RAND cooperation. Actually, so there's a lot of mathematicians who poured in to kind of actually work out the strategies of how the Russians would behave in a certain, I would say, situation. And during the Cuban Missile Crisis, it has been used in policy, foreign policy, domestic policy, even psychology, and a lot of applications. Okay, let's get moving. So this is, yeah. Okay, let's first get to economics. Yes, as in computer science. I just told you why it's in computer science. Military strategy, Second World War, Cold War, it's used. Even in foreign policy, it's used right now. Diplomacy and many more actually. But the next one, basically, I think this is actually John Nash, and there was this movie. How many of you saw this movie, The Beautiful Mind? Yeah. So I think this is the movie about his, I would say, his life and work. And he's a schizophrenic, so he would hear a lot of voices and he would see people, and so a lot of hallucinations. So at a later point, when you ask him basically like, as in how do you kind of, I would say, handle that now? He says basically, I still hear them, I still see them, but I ignore them. So throughout his life, he was actually seeing all this. He was seeing all these hallucinations of people walking and talking, and he would respond to them, and people thought he was mad, but actually he kind of tried to cope with it. So one of the fundamental theorems is by him, but he has a lot of other work in mathematics that is very important. But he is known for his Nash equilibria that we'll see today. Some games. Okay, let's get started with some games. And so what you just saw is prisoner's dilemma. So you wanna, let's say this is called the prisoner's dilemma. Do you understand how this matrix is filled? No. Yes. No. Yes. Sorry. I'm sorry.
So if player 1 steals, wouldn't player 1 get 40? I think it's
Okay. I think so. Okay, let's do this. Okay. So basically here, okay, the first, let's do one thing. So basically, the first one corresponds to the player 1 payoff. The second one corresponds to player 2. Okay. So when the split, both get equal. When they steal, both get equal. When player 1 plays steal and player 2 plays split, player 2 gets a 0, yes, and this guy gets a 40k. So yeah, that's right. So 0 and 40k. Yeah, thank you. So this is the matrix, the way it goes. Is it clear how this matrix is done? So yeah, sorry. Huh? I'm sorry? Sorry? I cannot get you. What is it? I don't know what that is. Sorry? Biology. Okay, no. As in, I'm very poor in biology. The only biology I know is through neuroscience. But as in, so let's stick to this for now. So this is called prisoner's dilemma. And how many of you saw this before? Prisoner's dilemma? Okay, few of you. Okay. So what is a Nash equilibria in this? Do you know what an equilibria is? So what happens if you play this? Let's say you are player 1 or let's say you are player 2. What would you play? You always play steal. Why would you play steal?
let's say you play split. If your opponent plays steal, you're going to lose everything. And you don't really want them to walk away with everything while you get nothing. Right?
That's right.
So playing split is always disadvantageous because it gives your opponent the ability to steal from you.
That's right.
So stealing will always guarantee either you get everything or you get nothing.
Yeah.
Either one person gets everything or both don't get anything.
No. The thing is basically if you actually try to kind of split, right? Then if other person also splits, then everybody is even. But if you split, then you get screwed. Yeah. Sorry.
If your opponent plays split,
Yeah.
you should play steal because you make more.
That's
Your
right.
opponent plays steal, it doesn't really matter. So just play steal all the time.
So what happens is, how many of you how many of you agree that you will always play steal? Just raise your hands.
If you're playing steel all the time, just raise hands.
How many times is the game being
So
played?
yeah, that would depend on the opponent.
You don't know what the opponent is going to do, no? Opponent is not your hand, no?
I have a doubt.
Yeah, please.
Are we playing the game against the same person multiple times or
No,
once?
once. That's it. Once,
Then
and you'll never see them again.
obviously.
You don't know this person, they're total strangers. You're playing this game once, and so how many of you, if you were to play, you will play steel? Yeah, okay. Vast majority. Whoever hasn't raised hands, would you play split? You didn't raise your hand, so why would you play split? Hey, you didn't raise your hand, so as in you're not going to steal. You're going to split. Why? Because there are only two options. You have to play either one of them. You don't know the opponent. The opponent, as in, so you're playing with a random opponent. Why would you not steal? You don't know. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Let's see what happens. So let me take. I'm a player 2 or something. Let's say I do. Let's say I'm a player 2 and I can choose between this or this. So let us say, for example, let us say here. Let us say I do split. And then what happens is I'm going to get, I would say this is first one is player 1 we said, right? This player 1, so I get 20. And then if this guy steals, I get 0. But then if I change my strategy to steal, this 20 becomes 40 and the 0 remains 0. So I only have to gain by stealing. Similarly, this also basically this guy also reasons similarly. So what happens is at the end you come and converge here. That becomes the equilibrium point. Once you are here, you don't have anything to deviate. The thing is, people can say, for example, this player 1 can go here and make 0 or something. But what happens is, in the prisoner's dilemma, what happens is, the original formulation is, there are two people, let's say me and, okay, join me, what's your name? Shreyas, okay, me and Shreyas, as in, we come and where do we go? I think we go to her house, okay, and then she has some very nice laptop. So one day we get in and we kind of steal the laptop and we jump out of the window. And once we jump out of the window, the police see us jumping out of the window. And then she's like shouting and screaming, "Where's my laptop? Where's my laptop?" And but the police catch us. But we hid the laptop comfortably somewhere and the laptop is nowhere to be found. Now what happens is the police basically can keep us in the custody for interrogation for 2 days maximum, without any, I would say, evidence. As in now, either we have to confess for them to kind of, I would say, as in kind of punish us, or if they cannot make us confess, they have to leave us in 2 days. So this is the setting in which this happens actually. That's why it's called prisoner's dilemma. And the police, what they do is, they'll actually take me and Shreyas, put in two separate cells and say, here is your payoffs. They will say, see, both of you confess. Then what will happen is basically both of you will get, I would say, let us say 1 year in jail. And let us say basically both of you don't confess. You will go off in 2 days in jail. So now basically if you both basically, I would say, confess, you have 1 year in jail. If you both, I would say, do not confess, you don't cooperate and didn't have evidence, then what happens is you go away in 2 days. Okay. Now they will say, if Shreyas confesses, you don't confess, Shreyas is going to get $10,000. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go off. No, I'm not going to go off because I didn't cooperate. They will say, instead of having 1 year in jail, they'll put me 10 years in jail. So now I'm like, I'm scared because if he confesses, I'm going to get screwed. Then they'll go to him and say the same thing. If Lokesh confesses, but you don't confess, he'll get $10,000, but you'll be in jail for 10 years. So he's like, oh, 1 year is better than 10 years and he'll confess and I'll also confess tomorrow. And the police are happy because they got a confession. So that is why it's called prisoner's dilemma. Everybody clear? On board? Okay, now let's move on. The next one. Let's look at a coordination game. Okay. Coordination. So this is called the coordination game. It's like, I would say, it's more like, I would say, if I am going left and you're going left, both of us pass. Basically, you're coming from this side, I'm coming from this side. So you're on the left, I'm also on the left, everything is fine. But let's say I'm going on the left, I'm going on my right, correct lane, but you have come to the right lane. There'll be a clash, and so basically the payoffs will go down. Same thing here, and same thing here. So both of us actually have incentive to stay in our lanes. So you stay in your left lane, I'll stay in my left lane. Or we agree that both of us will use right lane, and you stay in the right lane and I stay in the right lane. So these are the, I would say, the points that you want to converge. Any deviation, I would say, will result in bad outcomes. Is that clear? So this is called the coordination game. Now let's look at another game. This is called the battle of the sexes. What happens is, here there is wife and husband, and let's denote, I would say, let's look at, let's say 2, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0 and 1, 2. Player 1, player 2. So what happens in this game is, there's wife and husband, and they are deciding on two choices over the weekend. One choice is to go to a ballet. The second choice is go to a football. So now what happens is, when let's say both go separately, let's say the wife chooses to go to ballet and the husband chooses to go to football, both are not happy because they're not together. And otherwise, basically, I'd say if this guy chooses to go to ballet and she chooses to go to football, which will never happen, but they'll get 0-0. But then let us say basically both of them go to ballet. The wife is more happier than the husband because it's a ballet. Now, if both of them go to football match, the husband is more happier because it's a football match, and the wife is okay to hang around. So she's not as happy, but she's okay. Clear? So what this means is, there is a bit of, they want to cooperate, but they're also competing. They want to cooperate on these two outcomes. For example, in these 4 outcomes, out of these 4 outcomes, they want to make sure these two don't realize. But at the same time, there's a tension that they want to choose this or this. Do you see this? This is one of the example where you see the tension rising. Actually, what will happen is, game theory, what happens is, the right name for it is analysis of conflict. There are two parties that are engaged in some kind of a conflict and they're trying to resolve it. And the equilibrium is basically where people are like, okay, if I'm here, I'm okay, kind of a thing. So do you see this happening? There's a cooperation here, there's also a competition here. So, okay, in the previous game, in Prisoner's Dilemma, it's basically, it's a fierce, I would say, almost like fierce competition actually. Because basically in some cases, if one guy wins, the other guy loses. That's a zero-sum game. We'll come to that later. But here it's a nice coordination. Basically, they always want to be here or here. Whether it's here or whether it's here, it really doesn't matter. As long as we choose one of them, I'm happy. But let's say basically in this case, it's not so. I would say I want to be in these 2 blocks, but if I am the husband, I would want to be in this block and not this block, right? So this is there's a bit of cooperation, there's a bit of, I would say, competition. So is this clear? Questions? Okay, then let's move on to the next game. This one is called matching pennies. What happens in this game? What will they prefer? Let's say player 1. What will player 1 prefer? Sorry? The player 1 will prefer both heads or both tails. That's what you're saying. P1 will prefer outcomes like this. What about P2? Sorry? Yeah. This is what it is. And now you can see that they are at conflict. You see that? They are at conflict because the outcome the one guy wants is exactly not the outcome that the other guy wants. Basically, they're like, if I want an outcome, that is exactly the outcome that you don't want. Because if I win, you lose. And vice versa. So this is called a zero-sum game. And these are the games basically that are very competitive actually. Football is a zero-sum game. If I win, you lose in some sense. So now that's the reason why this is called matching pennies. Let's look at let's say for example we are actually able to play this game. We are actually allowing people to change their strategies. Let us say we start from here. Let us say I am player 1. It's a head, I get 1. I'm very happy. And now I'll give player 2 a chance. What will player do? Because I played a head, what will he do? I give a chance for him to change his strategy. Both of us played heads. Player 1 played heads, player 2 played heads, and we are here. And I'll ask him, either of you can switch your strategy. What will happen next? Player 2 will switch to tails and he'll come here. Player 2 will switch. Sorry. And then basically player 1 will switch. And then what will happen? This is what will happen. And then what will happen? It doesn't settle in equilibrium. If you look at prisoner's dilemma, if you draw these arrows in the game like this, all the arrows will come and end here. Actually. So there's a very clear equilibrium there. So you see what's happening here? There's no, I would say, equilibria in pure Nash sense. Okay, so far so clear. You saw some games where there's competition, there's some games where there's coordination, some games they have a bit of cooperation, a bit of, I would say, tension, some kind of competition. You see all the ingredients of this. And as in this kind of gives you, I would say, some kind of a perspective on how these games are, as in what kind of models can you build. And also what we will do is, we'll go to, I'll actually wanted to kind of show you basically, let's say if you actually look at prisoner's dilemma. In a prisoner's dilemma, there is very clear thing. You don't care what the other guy will do. You will pick this. There's nothing like if he will do, I will do this. For example, in this case, if he plays a heads, I will play a tail. If he plays a tails, I will play a head. There's some rule like that. So my strategy depends on what the other person's strategy is. In prisoner's dilemma, there's nothing like that. So what you do is basically, whatever the other guy plays, I am just blindly close my eyes, I am going to steal. That kind of a strategy is called a dominant strategy. And all these are basically, I would say, this equilibria, when you actually say, I'm going to play this or that, is basically, it's called as a pure Nash equilibria. The equilibria, when you pick one strategy, I'll put all my weight on one strategy, this is the only strategy I will play. And basically, that is pure Nash equilibria. And then basically, when you know that this strategy beats everything else, irrelevant of what the other person is going to do, I'm going to do this, that is called dominant strategy. Because that is the best thing you can do. What we will do is basically we'll go into some different kinds of strategies. Let us say when you're playing a football, right? Let's say there's a kicker and a goalkeeper. If I'm a goalkeeper, if I'm always telling that I'm always going to kind of jump right, then is it a good strategy? Then what's a good strategy in football? If I'm a goalkeeper, what should I do? Sorry? But actually what tends to happen is, from the time that the guy kicks to the ball goes into the goal, you have to jump before that, because basically the amount of time that's there, you cannot, the time is not enough for reaction, to pursue and react. So you actually decide and jump. So then how do you jump? Do I always jump right? Do I always jump left? What do I do? Sorry? Half. Okay. So basically now you are saying basically I'm not going to do this or that. I'm going to kind of randomize. That is what we'll get. So in some cases, you don't want to kind of play one strategy. If you play one strategy, then you lose the game because that will be exploited again and again. So what will happen is in some cases, you want to confuse the opponent and you play mixed strategy. That's called mixed strategy. And we'll come to that now in the next part. So it's already, I would say, what, 9:55 something, maybe 5-10 minutes break. We continue. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.